Good morning, City of Green. Welcome to our show, Belle with Wells. Of course, I'm Belle, and I am happily joined by Mr. Wells, the Vice Principal of Green High School. He's nice enough to join us for our important topic of cyberbullying. Today, we'll talk about what it is, how it affects people, and how to respond to it. Thanks for joining us. So, what's your background on cyberbullying?
Well, good morning, Belle. Unfortunately, it's becoming more and more common when we hear the term cyberbullying. Basically what that is anything that's connected, I like to say, to the internet. So it could be your phone, your tablet, your computer. We're even to see it with gaming systems as well. And ultimately what it is where anybody is using one of those ways to communicate, and they're doing it in a way that is basically hurting another person. And that can be done kind of a lot of ways by sending, harmful messages. We've seen people pretend to be other people to try and get people to do things. We've had people share images and some other things that maybe stoke some fear into the other person, and it makes their daily life difficult.
Well, what have you heard in school about cyberbullying?
Again, like I said, it's becoming more and more common. I think a lot of people, the one thing I think that we need to realize with technology is that it is reaching 24/7, where some people may be watching the show when they went to school. It was you would go to school, you would see your friends and your classmates till 3 o'clock, you would go home, you may speak on the telephone, but you wouldn't see them until the next day. In today's age, it's 24/7, 365. And a lot of these messages are sent after school hours. A lot of times we're seeing them late at night, after midnight, and things like that. Those are the types of things we see. So it may not happen exactly in the building at that moment, but because the students are connected all day, every day, we're seeing them at all hours of the day.
How many students do you think that have experienced it have only reported it?
That's I think is the scary part. I think we've had a lot of students that do report it. I would say it's at least a couple times a week, and I can't imagine how many students are trying to handle it on their own, and I really wish they would come to us for help or to seek help from somewhere else. But unfortunately, we only know what we know, but I'm sure there's a lot more out there that students are dealing with.
And what do you think some of the reasons that some students haven't reported it?
I think it's that fear. I think it's they want to try and handle things on their own. They don't want to be that tattletale we hear of. We'll hear that term a lot. I think a lot of kids they just want to be. I guess they want to handle it on their own, and they think they can handle it on their own, and a lot of times they can't.
If students do end up reporting it, how do you think that they feel after they've reported it?
We usually see a sense of relief. I think it's like somebody's listening to me. It's kind of off my shoulders now. Now I can kind of breathe a little bit, it seems like. I think it's when they realize that they're going to get help, I think it's a game changer for our students.
Do you think there's any way that students could avoid the cyberbullying?
Avoid it by not having a device. I know that's impossible because I think we're all guilty of it. You've really grown up with it. Some of us haven't, but it is so a part of our lives now that I really don't think it's going away. But I think it's monitoring your social media, reporting it when you see it, and that's the way to handle it. But I don't think it's going away, unfortunately, just because of everybody's on social media.
How do you think we can help the people that are affected by social media get better?
A lot of it, like I said earlier, I think it's the reporting. Whether you tell a parent or a guardian, you might tell a sibling, you can even tell friends. Here at school we do have a helpline that students can text, and again it's anonymous and it comes right to our school resource officer, Deputy Gruelle, and he's a good one. Knocking on a principal's door, knocking on a teacher's door, and just letting them know that you need help is the best way I think you can handle it. The other way you can also do as well, and we encourage parents to do this as well, is if you contact the platform, and let's say I'll use Instagram, for example. If you contact the platform, a lot of times they can take things down as well. So you just have to look for all the ways you can handle it, but there are ways to handle it.
Now let's pause for a moment and watch a video about how cyberbullying could really affect students.
"60% of teens have experienced cyberbullying. 64% say that cyberbullying affects their ability to learn. 90% of teens who see cyberbullying ignore it. Don't ignore it. Call or text 988 or 741-741.
Thank you. Now I know dealing with cyberbullying as administration must be tough because it's not just a problem inside of school, but it's outside of school as well. So what are some ways that you guys deal with it on your end?
That's the hard part. I think that's one of the things that's changed and the way we look at it is that if a student is being cyberbullied, yes, it has an effect outside of school, but remember, a lot of those students are coming to school the next day, and it usually revolves around someone at school. So what that does is that impacts the student's day, and so they do not feel safe at school. So that's when we can get involved that way because it affects them that way.
As we talked about previously, I know we have some good resources that students can use to help cyberbullying. Is there any other information that you have about the text hotline?
Use it. Again, it's anonymous, and if you know of a friend that's going through it, don't be afraid to use that number and to let us know so that we can help as soon as possible. There's nothing worse than you hear about someone that's been going through a rough time, and it could be towards the end of the school year. When we ask them, how long has this been going on, they may say, since October. Well, that's hard to hear because you know that one of your students is going through a really rough time the entire school year when we could have intervened early on. So using the text number, and I think knocking on a principal's door is a good place to start.
Is there any specific principal that you feel is the best to talk to, or like the resource officer?
I think reach out for help. I don't think any of us are always here to help. That's why we're in this business, is to be an advocate for our students. So it doesn't matter what door you knock on or whose door you knock on, everybody's here to help.
Well, Mr. Wells, what is one thing that you can say to the victims of cyberbullying?
I'm sorry for anybody who goes through it because we see the looks on their faces when they come into the office. But again, what I could say is knock on someone's door and ask for help. Ask for help is so important.
Well, thank you for coming in, Mr. Wells, and have a great day, everyone. Thank you for watching, and remember, if you see something, say something.